Hello guys, welcome back to the channel. We are now in Douala. This is in Cameroun, Africa, and we are heading to the former palace of the king of Akwa, I think. So this is the administrative part of town where many of the buildings occupied here today by the administration was left during the colonial, before independence, let me put it that way. One particularity about this area is that motorbikes, commercial motorbikes, are not allowed here. So you have just regular cabs like this, that's a taxi, and those are the only vehicles, commercial passenger carrying vehicles, allowed in this area. I'm not too sure, but it looks like there is no official bus system here in Douala. Yesterday I saw a few buses, but I think they're operated by a private company and they don't have an official mandate with fixed routes. But that's that. Yeah, I saw that yesterday. So we are approaching the king's palace, and back in the day this was supposed to have been like on a little hill from historic photographs, and then a little ways back you had the villagers, and it was actually well appointed with good furniture, lots of glass. As you can tell, back in the day there was no electricity, so you had to use kerosene or other types of lighting. So you notice there are lots and lots of windows to allow light to come in. This is called the Pagode, probably based on the shape, but strangely enough, when you ask, nobody seems to remember that this is where the king lived. I tried saying that where the king of Douala lived, and still then few people could seem to recognize the place. So here it is. It's been there for, I would say, at least 100 years, because this was built quite early on when the Germans came in here. So what happened was the king signed a kind of protectorate deal with the German traders, and yeah, that's what happened. And they protected the territory and they had exclusive trade rights with the territory. I believe now it's become like an art kind of deal, art kind of museum. I'm not sure if it's still functioning, but I would say at one point also it became a restaurant, which was kind of sad. But all of these different uses to which the palace has been put, you know, kind of preserved the palace, because otherwise you see all the high rises around here. The square footage of land here is very expensive, so probably that helped in preserving the place. But it's just sad to see the state of disrepair in which it is. There is no fixed budget, so look at that piece of wood. I think that should be at least close to 100 years old. I think the bones are still good. You can see where they did some additions, a few sketchy electrical connections, Wi-Fi antennas, radio antennas on there. But by and large, the place has been preserved. Let's go around, take a quick look. So there's a little park around here, green space, which is awesome. I'm glad they haven't encroached completely onto the palace, so that leaves some hope for the future, you know, in case the place has to be revamped and developed. So yeah, here's a historic picture from the 1950s. I don't know if you guys can see that. And it was built in 1905. I believe the Prime Minister's Palace, Prime Minister's residence in Boya, was built between 1900 and 1903, and the workers came from West Africa. So this one was essentially within that period. I think von Puttkamer was the German governor at the time of this territory. It says here that the residence was constructed in 1905 by the Germans for King Auguste Manga Ndumbe, King Bell, who came to the throne in 1897. So Manga Bell had plantations of cocoa and palm nuts in the Mungo and the other parts of the Wuri area in Cameroon. And he also had quite a few rental property here in Bonanjo. And they say at the time he was one of the wealthiest kings of this area, and his wealth was far, far, far above that of the kings of Akwa, Deïdo, Bonabéri, and those are all different cantons or groups of the Douala people here in based here in Douala. Different clans of the Douala people. And so King Auguste Manga Ndumbe, King Bell, died in 1908. So he lived in this building just for about 3 years before he passed on. So his son was Rudolph Douala Manga Bell, who was king from 1908 to 1914. And he lived in this palace with his wife, who was called Emma Engomè Dayas, who was the daughter of a British captain called Dayas, and a young lady from Douala from the neighborhood called Bali, and her name was Tébédi Eyoum. So Rudolph Douala Manga Bell lived here until the 8th of August 1914, when he was arrested by the Germans, and I think he was hung. He was executed, but he was hung. I think that's what that's the means of the way he was executed. So Alexandre Douala, who was the son of the king, did not live in this building when he came back from Germany, because they were taken to Germany and they lived there for some time, I believe with his mom. So he went and lived with his family in a place which is today called the Parc in Douala. And that's where the chief of the Bell clan resides till today. So this still belongs to the Bell royal family in Douala, and it has been occupied since 1920 by different people who have been renting the place. So the name the Pagode came from a French writer who was called Louis-Ferdinand Céline, who lived in Douala between 1916 and 1917, and then he called this building the Pagode, which was mentioned in his novel called Voyage to the End of the Night. So that's pretty much it. Well, let's take a quick look around, see what we can find. There we have a fence, a gate. So this was actually a Cafe de Palabre. And you can see the remnants of the cafe back there. These are very old trees. It's a mango tree. Yeah. Let's go to the back. Let's go around. And if you look very carefully, that seems like some very old wiring right there. Look at the steps. And I should say this is one of the older standing structures that was constructed during the first time the Germans were here in Cameroon. Because after the First World War, most of their belongings were confiscated. And after that war, some of the families returned and took over their plantations, mainly in the southwest province, where they had palms and other cash crops. So I believe it's now also like a museum called Afrique Art, if I'm not mistaken. So yeah, I believe that up part, that topmost part is still original. And thank God somebody had the foresight to put a tin roof on there, and that's quite durable. And you have this addition here, which wasn't part of the original building. The building ended somewhere right here, but due to space constraints, I believe that's why this one was added. You have the generator there. Let's go around, take a look. China is the insurer of the national airline. They used to be the insurer of the national airline, and they also do insurance for many of the bigger companies around here. Look at this abandoned right in the heart of Douala. Wow. Yeah, so this is what the back looks like. Yeah, so that's the Pagode. Quick visit, and I'll catch you guys on the next video. Thanks for watching.